So there are two systems in our brains, and if everything you want to read on more, I'm happy to give sources. Here it's adapted from all kinds of sources. But we have the implicit memory or the non-declarative and the explicit memory. And this is what we do in classroom. So we learn facts, we do it intentionally, consciously, okay? We can describe the process that we are going through verbally, okay? It's stored in those areas in the brain, okay? And it's learned primarily through language, symbols, explanations. We have time to think of things. It's a top-down activity. So it goes from our prefrontal cortex, which is the higher area of the brain, which is responsible for all the thought process, the conscious thought process that we run, so we can think, hey, what are the next steps that I need to do? How will I do them? Okay, now I can execute it. But this is not where the game of basketball is played. The game of basketball is played here. So it's learned without conscious awareness. I'm starting to do something, but I can't tell you, hey, I moved my right hand like this, and I did this with my fingers. No. If you want to confuse a tennis player, ask him what he's doing. This is not, the keyboard here is not with my native language, and I don't have stickers. So when I do it automatically, it's not a problem. But then if I need to, hey, where is this letter? And I start to look for it consciously, it will take me like 20 seconds to get to it. Because when it is automatic, I know where to find it. I know automatically. But now when I need to start thinking about it, it's a completely different system. So the game is played here. Hard to explain in words what exactly you are doing. It's stored in the motor sensory systems. It's bottom up. So first the action goes, and then it goes to the parts of your brain which are monitoring what you did. So there aren't any top-down processes during game. If I'm a player, it doesn't work like, hey, I have the ball, here is my defender. What should I do now? Maybe I will plant my right foot here, and then I will cross the ball over. This is not how it is working. Everything happens automatically. Perception, action. I perceive something and I act upon it. And only then it goes to the areas of the brain that are monitoring what I did. So there is actually no point of talking so much with the players, because we are talking with the wrong system. So what can we do? What can we do to coach the players? So most actions in games are context dependent. So I can't tell you in advance, hey, if you do this all the time, it will be great. Because the context is ever changing in the game. So most decisions and most actions are only context dependent. And for that, the only thing that I want to do is to put my players into a lot of representative repetitions. They will find their own solutions to the problems, and they will get better at it. So I have nothing to add there. But there are actions that will yield a good expected outcome regardless of context. And I divide them into two: essentials, that are ingredients of an action. For example, if I want to keep the shoulder, which is a habit, one of the ingredients is keep your defensive stance. So this is something that no matter what the situation is, if I will keep my defensive stance, there is a good chance that I will get good outcomes from it. And no matter what the situation is, whether it be a closeout, defending a crossover, or whatever it is. Okay? So this is an ingredient of an action that I can identify as something that if I would consistently do, I would get good expected outcomes. The second thing is habits. Habits are actions. It's not an ingredient of an action. It's the action itself, which I know that no matter what the game context is, if I do that, it's going to be great, or it's going to be good for us. What I mean with good is 70 to 80% of success rate all the time. Want to say something? So, for example, boxing out, when a shot is taken, yes, I can go and get the ball. So he takes the shot, I will go and get the ball. I can do that. That's one option. One option is he shoots, I can run for the fast break. That's another option, okay? But the option to box out will give us better results over time. So yes, once in a while, when I will do this and go to the ball, I will get the ball. Once in a while, I will get it. But over time, if I will box out, I will get consistent, better results. So these are essentials and habits. Now I can tell you that it's very hard to identify those essentials that you can say that are true for all the players. For example, in shooting, I'm struggling with it a lot. Because you can see so many forms of shooting by players. Like you watch the NBA, the greatest shooters, everyone shoots differently. So what can you say about the shooting form? Are you completely sure of what you are teaching your players when you tell them, hey, you need to bring your elbow in? I'm not sure. You need to be positive before you say something to a player, and there are essentials that are individual. So there are players that, hey, for you, if you would do this, no matter what the context is, it's going to be beneficial for you. So this is an individual essential. But I don't want to get too much into it. Okay? So how will we get our players to keep those essentials, to keep those habits? We have 3 tools in our toolbox to do that. The first thing is keeping our players focused, to drive their attention, to direct their attention to specific places, okay? So this is, again, why we cannot talk about too many things, because it's impossible to pay attention to too many things. So we want to keep their attention directed into 2, 3 specific elements. I always say we need to have 1 to 3 essentials or habits offensively, and 1 to 3 essentials or habits defensively. And if we have good, talented players, we can also give individual essentials. But you can see, and we saw it all the time last year, we talked about one thing, immediately other things are becoming shaky, because now players' attentions go to other places. And now they're already starting to forget, and you spoke about boxing out. Now you move on to walling up, and immediately boxing out starts to be shaky. So you cannot do too many things in practice. You must be very, very focused, okay? In order to do that, you need terminology, which is short, clear, goal-oriented. It's very important how you use your terminology, and the goal of terminology is to put everyone on the same page immediately. So with one word, there is complete understanding of the implicit system of what needs to be done. So one word that immediately drives attention to where we want it to be. We need to pay attention not, so I see something now, we practice and we are talking about boxing out. Now I see that this player did not cover the screen well. Okay, that's a legitimate point, a teaching point. But the question is, will I talk to him about it? Because if I will stop now the practice and I will talk, and I know it wasn't good, it was not good, but if I talk about it, then I divert attention to places that I don't want him to go. And again, we get into scattered effort, and we see things that are not consistent enough, okay? So focus. Second thing is feedback. We learn, the implicit system learns through trial and error. Okay, so think of a baby. He has a clear purpose. He wants to get to this toy. That's a clear purpose. Now he is starting to look for solutions to the problem. And it's the exact same mechanism that they are going through. So a clear purpose, I want to get to this toy. Now I'm trying new moves. I move the hand here, I move the hand there. Why is a baby moving the hands all the time? He's looking for solutions. Now what happens? How does he know that something is working for him? He gets a feedback. Hey, I did this, and I got closer to the toy. That's a feedback. I know I'm in the right direction. Okay? So the implicit system learns through trial and error. It learns through feedback. Okay? It must be an immediate one. If it's not immediate, it won't work. When positive feedback drives dopamine release, which is strengthening connections in the brain, so this is what we are trying to achieve. Dopamine spikes when something is going well. Negative feedback, it's a more complicated process in the brain, but it signals the brain that something needs to change. So both are very important. And there is what's called the reward prediction error, which means our brain, and this is why they jump all the time. When we do something, we expect a reward for it. So we expect what the outcomes are going to be. So I know that if I will jump, probably I won't block him, right? Defensively, this is something that drives me crazy all the time. But I know that if I will jump defensively, I know most of the chances are that I will not get a block, right? Because most of the time we don't block shots, okay? But now, the one time that I do get a block is a prediction error. So I thought I'm not going to get a good reward, but I got a good reward. This is the reward prediction error. Now dopamine neurons fire like this, and it stays with us. So we learn from great positive memories. Great and positive memories leave a long-lasting impression on us, and we try to do it again and again. This is why it's so hard to get rid of those jumps, okay?
Do you have any general concept in your mind of positive to negative, how that might change with age, or do you even think of it that way?
It's a good question, but essentially, if they deserve a positive feedback, then they should get one. If they deserve a negative one, they should get a negative one. It should be adequate to what we want them to do, right? So, but generally speaking, I would give, and this is what simplifying is all about. We'll talk about it. We will expand on the subject Thursday when we talk about younger ages. But we will give them challenges that they are able to cope with, so they will get positive feedbacks. The problem with feedback, the game provides confusing feedback. So I might box out consistently, but I won't get even one defensive rebound. Because my friends took it before, because I am very short. I did what needs to be done, but I'm not getting any positive feedback. So the game is giving us confusing feedback. So hey, I'll try to do something else. Maybe I will run to the ball and I will get the ball, and now I'm going to get positive feedback. Okay? So that's a big problem. So in order to tackle this, we need to feedback the action, not the outcome. So even if a player took a terrible shot and he scored, we must be consistent and tell him, hey, you were lucky. It wasn't a good shot. So we must always feedback the action, not the outcome. And we need to be very consistent with negative feedback that are potentially, like we said about the jumping thing, okay? We sometimes take good actions for granted. We never should do that. And we should feedback every time the player does what we want him to do. We should give him a positive feedback for that. And we want to be creative with feedbacks. So because we cannot give feedback all the time to players, because there are too many things that are going on. So for example, when a player gives a good pass to his teammate, This is why we want them, hey, that's a great pass. So now he's getting feedback. I'm getting help from my players. They're giving feedback to the players. Okay? So find creative ways to give feedback. Okay? Again, feedback diverts attention. If we're starting to give feedback on everything, then attention gets lost. And the feedback is unclear many times. So if it's not clear, if the player doesn't understand if you are happy or not happy with what he did, it's useless. So he needs to understand completely, hey, is that good or not? Okay? And what do you mean by telling me, hey, stay low? What do you mean exactly? What do you mean? And here it's very important that you ask your players once in a while, hey, what do I mean when I say defensive stance? See that you and your players are on the same page, okay?